gonna give you. I don't know if that was me, or if that was someone else. There didn't know it was happening. So how very Border Rams that is. The move is happening. We weren't successful. There were three things that people focused constantly on. One, kind of on the two, there's no history in Three, if you move that house, you'll spend more money than if you just built something brand new on the same site. One, we got it in place. We're way a little lot less than we could build anything anywhere near like it. Two, three, yes, we can. We did it. We did it. Now he was hoping. He said, this is a joke. This is a joke. And he said, nah, I'm going to wait till you get it there before I put the foundation because I'm sure it's going to fall apart. So, thanks to General Mara, who it's not the first time it's been moved. This house has been moved. But let us hope fervently that it is the last one. The very last one. That's what it said. Kind of hard to remember it was even there. There's the palms. I think it's better off. Oh, anyone want to add anything before we get in our carts and retrace almost the path? These cars won't jump the curb that the city so kindly put in place after we move the house. So we're going to go the route that we have. Don't stop the car. Go straight away to the house. Don't wait on the car. Right. Also, it doesn't really, I mean, this is the first time I've done this. You don't know how it is clean.
Okay, race car driver, slow down.
Slow down. We'll catch up.
Filming nothing.
What?
I said I'm filming nothing. There's nothing there.
Does this help?
Oh shoot, I forgot I'm filming. That's gonna be on there.
We got to take the cap off.
I'm not ashamed.
If we can get you guys out in front of the house, don't drop it, because I'll get shot for that too.
I got your head. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Now, when you fall on your face in the cake, I will have you on.
No, we wrote those cards.
Now, I took 4 feet where I can see the house. Okay. Do this.
You're going to have to do this next time. Idea what it's like to roll this thing out there and stuff?
God. Okay. I forgot all about it.
Inside here, yeah. Yeah. Great. Whatever. I don't even need it. I don't need it.
Drink prosecco. Have you had prosecco? The Italian?
You know, I haven't. I haven't.
And it's
I have not tried that. This is porch. I used to think, well, are they crazy to be talking about all the stuff they were going to do? And it's just great. The vision, yeah.
Oh,
but I need to try to
you go to the where is it? Well, she said library meeting room.
There he is. He's standing. He's over there.
Yeah, they always count the
Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, right.
And then yeah. Oh, you do? Yeah.
I have to. How long I think they'll
Oh, well, yeah. Well, you need a great
She may be. She may make it.
So I guess we'll just wait. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Miles. Happy birthday to you. Great. You like some crazy people.
Thank you.
I love the happy hour on the boat. I love the wild. And you know, I could move anywhere in my yard, and I'm a chef, gourmet meals, and yet I never was been out much in the yard. And you went to a house. And it's cake. I can't imagine why.
Miss Marilyn. John.
Same day.
But they sent him out about so anyway, that came on. The first thing on there was buy cake and bring cake. And I was like, I haven't seen it yet, but I knew Sylvia saw it.
I want an edge There's three at the bottom of the barrel.
At least it's even.
I know, but that one point was very close. And I haven't seen. We've been like, happy birthday. The wind came and blew it, and then she said, do it again. I said, they were down there all here. You all know it's going to be in the next video. It's going to be on YouTube now. It's the third time we've done it. Yeah, I'll go out a piece of cake.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming. What a difference a year makes. We certainly don't come like that. We've come a long ways. And I think when the house was still sitting back here, before they moved it to the site, Norris and I went down to see Mayor Brown on one of these first Monday meetings that we were visiting with him, and told him, you know, Papa really appreciated what he was going to do here with the foundation and everything, and he just kind of, ugh. So I hope you guys haven't been off more than you can chew. But he was just a little nervous with the house sitting behind him. But I think he's got to be feel a little bit better about the way it sits here now. So, but we owe a lot of this to Bruce. Bruce just did a tremendous job. pretty good, and he did a great job. And then the garden club, I don't think we can say enough about what they've done. This is,
Happy here?
no. I think this is almost the crown jewel of Port A. To have this, as people come down Allister now, is just a tremendous thing. And then Mary Hammond, McKnight.
Yes, where's Mary? Mary.
Oh, she's hiding.
Our docents have just done such a wonderful job, and I don't know if we could even do this without our docents. So if you're a docent, raise your hand. Mary's had a little competition with the docents, so whoever's put in the most time, and I think what, is there 10?
Linda.
Well, I know Linda's done the most.
How many? 10, but we're probably going to end up doing 2 trips. Is
Okay.
Karen is still here?
No.
Okay, Linda had 50 hours and Karen Larson had over 40.
Okay.
Wow.
Wait, this pouring wine tonight.
Actually, it does.
But, so we've had some great docents, and Mary had a competition for them to have a tour to the lighthouse, and I think also a flyover, is that in
That'll be
there?
Wow.
in the early fall.
And Mark is going to do a flyover for the docents that have the most hours and everything, so if you're not in there this year, hey, you know, maybe next year.
Is Rick the pilot?
She must not be going to take the flight. So
She changed her mind.
But we would also like, before you all leave this evening, to sign our guest book
Everybody.
in the lobby there. And then our board members that are here this evening, of course, Nancy Phillips is our president. Rick Pratt, who is our director of the museum. There you are. We have John Fusing. Christina Milligan. Bruce Reynolds. And myself. I think Chris and Randy must have taken the carts back. Yeah. So, but our board has done a great job in putting, and of course Rick in doing the displays here. Then we can kind of watch the video as the evening goes along, but I'd like John to kind of just give us a little bit of the history of our museum. Then Rick is going to kind of tell you what we're doing now and what we hope to do in the future. And Bruce can kind of give you a little overview of our finances that we have. So,
Hey, John.
I'm not going to tell you about the museum, but I'm going to say very, very briefly, you know, that everything that fleshes out, like the museum here, has to have a skeleton in order to put the meat on it. Well, maybe my contribution was starting the skeleton
Yes.
about 6 years ago. When we had all this to do about, you know, the new buildings being built with all the glass and all that kind of stuff, I ran into this little thing from Texas Historical Commission saying we're starting a new program recording visionaries in preservation for those people that want to preserve the history of their community. And it was like just 2 years old. It was not a lot of mileage on this program. And so I said, I think that's something we ought to be involved with, because this is kind of what we're looking for. And so we sent in a request. The first summer was like just a couple months after we really got organized, and our original so-called board was just people that were kind of interested, and eventually we we formed our group, we got incorporated, and then we sent in everybody on the board, and Guthrie was one of them, and Beverly Charles, and Marcy was one, there was a bunch of them. Yeah, Betty was.
No, Betty was not.
Yeah, she came along very.
I was.
Pam.
Pam
Yeah,
and
Pam was.
yeah, anyway.
Hello?
Marilyn. Where's Marilyn?
Marilyn?
Marilyn. Nancy.
Anyway.
Everybody.
Yeah, sent in a second request.
We had
got the money, and that started
the Sunday
process of
brunches, you
looking
remember?
at what goals we wanted to establish in the whole business, and I know a lot of you were involved in that. And among the goals that we wanted to do as the Preservation Association was a museum, preserving, our old town stuff, preserving sites around town that had historical significance, educating the young people, in terms of the history of this place, and several other things. And all of those came out of this visionaries and preservation thing. And it wasn't just the idea that we had a process, but it was the idea of getting the award. And from that, then Betty and all the other people came in, and the funding, she got so many grants for us and recognized, and it just sort of snowballed from that point on. I think you know what snowballs are, but anyway, we don't have a lot of them. Anyway, so, and that's what, all culminated in this. And, from the point where the museum, the building became a possibility, I was really just sort of moving along with the momentum. But it did, I just say what it take, it took a little contribution on the part of these people just to be brave enough to start off and say, we need a historical association in Port Aransas, and that was kind of the start. And all of you should give yourself lots of credit for, starting that in, because it's not easy to start a new organization. And to come this far in 6 years, it's just quite amazing. And it's due to all of you. It's not necessarily me. And I think.
You're here to John.
Good job. I came in just a little bit before we got our first historical survey done. Betty found a grant, got the money, hired a group to come up and do a $10,000 survey of what we had in town. And I thought, well, what a ripoff. At that time, I was serving on the city council, and I'm used to looking at every little price tag and saying, that's too much. We can't afford that. You're gonna have to cut this down. So, wow, 10 grand to do this. Yeah. This gal shows up, and it's her by herself, and she drives around town, takes a bunch of pictures. I thought, wow, are we getting ripped off or what? But she produced a document. And the document had photos of all of the old houses in Port Aransas, and it identified our architectural type, which didn't exist prior to that. We gave it the name of coastal. And she identified this house as, quote, the crown jewel of Port Aransas. Shortly thereafter, I was hooked. The thought of building a museum just sort of comes upon you. This town needed a museum. It needed something to represent its history. It needed someplace to tie it down, to pass it on to the next people, to tell the story of Port Aransas, because it wasn't being told. We had a lot of attempts and a lot of contributions, but we never had really gotten hold of it and made it a project. This house became available quite by accident when the family that owned it decided it wasn't going to work as their summer escape. So they were going to instead build townhomes around. And that meant the house had to go. That put us in action. 2.5 years ago, this was a conversation. Now it's a museum. So this lady identified, first off, PAPHA got formed, and a bunch of people said there is history here, and it's important. Second, we identified the town itself, the old town. We gave it a presence. And incidentally, at that point, some of us began whispering, old town, old town, old town, all around town. At council meetings, everywhere we went, old town. Now everybody says it. Old Town is real. It exists. And everyone knows it. You know, it always had that cachet. It had that existence. It had that persona. But it didn't have a name. There was some argument at first that it should be the historical district. I said, yeah, that sounds a little dull. It's Old Town, and that's what it has become. So Old Town existed. And then this house became available, and we went to work. We went to work hard. And we slugged, and we arm wrestled, and we got down in the mud, and it was a bare knuckle contest. There was a lot of struggles. And the three most common statements were, A, you can't do it, B, there's no history in Port Aransas, and C, hell, you can build something cheaper and you can save this damn little place. That's what we faced. Now, within that 2-year period, we raised the money, we moved the house, we wrestled away a site on Main Street in Port Aransas and created the entry plaza for the town within that short period of time. Because a few people got together and worked very hard, and because the idea was there. The time had come. It was an idea whose time had come. You've heard that before, right?
Yes.
This time we experienced it. Sure enough, it just carried us right along. Now, each of us has carried this thing a certain distance on our backs. Betty Bundy started that charge. She wouldn't shut up. She wanted us to buy the place, $465,000. Then by the time we got around to looking at it, he wanted $525,000. Well, you know, it was one of those moving targets. We couldn't do that. We couldn't buy it. Then it would have been over there. It would have been okay, but, you know, it needed to be somewhere else. So finally, I got into the fray, and we dealt with the owner, and we leased it from him. And we had to pay some bucks to lease it from him, and we got a lot of gaff over that. But it was necessary to control the process to lease this house. So we leased it and began to get to know it. Then we brought in Mr. Lara. Mr. Lara came over, General Joe Lara, came over, looked at the house, gave us a bid, $16,000 to move it from there to here. Then we also heard a storm. My God, you're going to pay $16,000 for that thing? I mean, hell, you know, you could build one cheaper. Yeah, right. Then it was, where did we put it? So we put a committee together of people who were movers and shakers around town and said, where should we put this thing? And there it was all over the board, but this is where we ended up. This really was the prime spot. Now, I had promised Mike Hall that I would never use his name in public as the guy who suggested that this be the location for the house. But he's the guy. He took Betty up and said, let's go over and measure this spot. So they came over and measured the spot and said, yeah, it'll fit. Then they handed it off to me. So then became the struggle. So finally, everyone on the council, everyone on the Boatmen's Association, and a few people in town agreed it should be here, and we got it. Then came the move, and lifting the wires, and all of the things that come in there. And finally, we get it set down, and I fall in a heap. A guy shows up that has all the talents we need. He showed up a little bit earlier, and his name is Bruce. He's standing right back there. He stepped up, voluntarily accepted the job. The challenge. It was not a job at that point. It was a huge challenge. There wasn't even a job. And he put the project together. He also was the treasurer, so he knew how much dough we had. And it was amazing the amount of money we had raised by then. And it's even more amazing how little we spent to get this whole thing together. And we'll leave that to him because he knows his numbers. So he came along and took the job and brought it forth. He got this house fixed ahead of schedule, under budget, and without scandal. The last time that was done was when we got to the moon. It's true, you look it up. I'll be happy to debate it with you. Finally, Bruce collapsed in the heat, and we had a conversation on the front porch. He said, I'm handing it over to you. And I took on the initial job of trying to make it into a museum. And at some point, late at night, I thought, this place needs a director. Because if we don't get a director and lock ourselves on this project, it's not going to happen. And like an idiot, I volunteered. Now, there's no fool like an old fool. The truth of this whole thing is that it's almost been divinely guided. Someone has come along at every point that had the talents we needed to get this project done. And it's really been quite amazing to watch. So here we are, the museum is in place. Now, we got our first exhibit up, and once again we all fell in the heap. That would not have happened except for two things. One, my wife, Cameron Pratt, and two, 6,000 plus historic photos that Mark Creighton has been collecting for 25 years. Talk about foresight. He not only collected them, but he began archiving them. He's not here. He's in Florida taking care of his mother who fell, whacked her head real hard, and had a cerebral hemorrhage. Actually, it started out pretty good. She was invited onto a 96-foot, extremely expensive mega yacht for a party and slipped down the stairway into the, what do you, I don't know, it's not called a stairway, but it's a circular stairway, companionway, I guess, it goes down. So he's over there taking care of her and can't join us, but his gift to us was all these photos that showed us, yes, indeed, there is a history of Port Aransas. So each of us has come along, you know, at a certain time, someone stood up, they can do the job. We're here right now, we've got the exhibit on the wall. Next step is to create a program. Now, we can't exist with just exhibits. We have to have a program. So now we have to begin to write those things which teach people about the history of Port Aransas. We have to go into the schools, we have to go out to the colleges, we have to go online, we have to create video tapes. We've got to, no more tapes, excuse me, video discs. We've got to do that whole thing. So the next big push is program. You might be in the future. Bruce, will you take over?
Well, my speech is not near as interesting as the history. But what we want to share with you just a little bit is how we run the museum financially. I'll say we are financially sound. You know, we have a nice sized bank account, and we're working very hard to make this thing continue forever. You know, so it's not just a one year process. The way we budget and the way we run it is all of this work that you've seen here. We've taken a pay-as-you-go approach. You know, when I was building this thing, you know, we'd get up to a point and I said, hold on, we got to stop at this stage until we've gone out and raised some more money. You know, so we built it as we went to have the money here. And so as we've gotten to the point where we have a building, you know, then it becomes a little easier to do fundraising projects and do some of the other things that we're doing, because people really believe it's going to happen. It's there. You know, it's no longer just a wish that we can make this happen. So the way we keep the doors open, and it's been said many times, is our volunteer. Our volunteer network is just tremendous. Our docent program under Mary is just, I mean, without it, we wouldn't be anywhere, period. I mean, it's the only way we can stay open. So the way we fund the operation is the way we've done our budgeting, including Rick's, modest amount we pay Rick, and we pay him a small amount to do this management for us. Our daily operations, which is our utilities, our insurance, the supplies, everything that keeps this thing open, the days that we're open, is funded from our memberships of individuals. All of you, I think, are members, or most all of you are members. But we have a whole town of members. And so our membership, our annual membership, is one of our major funding efforts. The next one is our corporate memberships. And we made a major drive this year to include a lot more of our corporations and our businesses in town to be members. And we made a major step forward. We have farther to go in that arena. But that's our daily operation funding, as well as what we collect from people that are donating coming through the doors, you know, to visit the museum, in our gift shop sales. So that's what we fund the daily operations with. Now, we got to build exhibits. You know, we're a long way from where we plan to be with our exhibits. You know, as Rick pointed out, this is just the first thing to get the doors open. And we're going to have some very creative exhibits. And some of those exhibits are going to cost us money. So how we do our exhibits is all our fundraising activities. The band concert that we had, the online live auction and dinner that we put on here. You know, we've had several fundraising events hosted by what I call Friends of the Museum. And we've gotten people together that have made donations. So all of that goes into the pot that we say, that's what we got to do our exhibits with. And, you know, when we did our original budget for exhibits, and we hired a number of exhibit companies to come in and say, what is it going to cost us to do the amount of exhibits that might fill up our museum and give us a first-class museum. And the number was always around $200,000 for all those exhibits. Well, you know, we're not at $200,000 in our fundraising efforts, but we're going to take it a stage at a time now. We've visited with a number of museums, and they've come back and said, don't try to do all of that at once. You know, do them 20,000 here, 20,000 there type activity. So we're now into the next phase of creating the next set of exhibits, which I think everybody will be proud of. But that's how we do it. That's how the fundraising. We're sound and we're alive and well and moving forward.
We're still celebrating.
Daddy wants to say we're still selling bricks. We've got lots of them sold, and we have made a lot of money on bricks.
And we have lots of vacant spots that.
Lots more bricks can be sold.
You're welcome.
You too can get a brick on. If you wander around, your name's not out. Get one of those bags.
We continue to take bricks. Rick has another item he wants to say.
No, you can't have another.
Okay. Sure. It's Pam here. Oh, someone take the camera out of her hand. Oh, yeah.
Did you get that? Get up there.
Each stage of the game, as I said, someone that shouldered a huge load, right? Throughout the game, she has shouldered a huge load. She has been and is our communications person. And she is the one who got the word out when the rest of us would forget to. As recently as today, when I realized I had forgotten to invite the mayor to make the comment. Well, somebody did, so I'll take credit for it. Pamela has been with us from the beginning, has been our communications person, and still is.
I think there's a couple other folks we need to thank also. I'd like to thank John Guthrie for being here. He's got several books on the history of Port A, and they're in our gift shop. And we make a little bit of money from him off of his book. He has done a tremendous, and he's always got some really neat stories in our newsletters. So I appreciate him being here. Coming and sitting for a But just thank all of you, and I think we probably may have, is there a couple more bottles of champagne? Why not? We can have wine or champagne and cake, if nothing else. So, but thank you all for coming, and like I said, it's been a wonderful year. We've come a long way in a year. I think it's a lot to accomplish. See from the looks of this house, we brought it over here. It's like, oh.
As John Guthrie Ford said, there is no future in history.
I was so wrong.
But it's been a fun year.
Yeah.
And Rick and I just went to El Paso for the Texas Association of Museums annual meeting, and we really met some tremendous folks over there who really gave us some helpful hints. And even a lady that said, "Oh, but you ought to do a fundraiser in Austin." Okay. You put it together and we'll do it. We did one in San Antonio. We've done one here. So hey, let's go to Austin. We're ready to go. So, but it was a great meeting to attend, and well, Rick and I slaved away at the meetings. Cameron, she and her grandmother had to go sightseeing, so she got to have fun.
She helped do all these pictures.
Yeah. She does the pictures. And now that she's in retirement.
History for my granddaughter. And yes, I'm retired, and you know, this is kind of like,
Are you staying busy?
one of our professors at the university, when he hires someone, it's illegal to say, "Is your wife involved in science too?" But for some reason, he always gets the wife to work in the lab too. So you got me, you got a deal.
So thank y'all. Don't forget to sign our book, and maybe we'll see you back here next year.
All right.
Give yourselves a hand.
And I hope people get here soon, but if they don't, enjoy what you do.
What do you need from here? You want to speak louder? You got it.
I'm out of breath, that's why I can't speak in here. This is Wade McWhorter, the Texas Historical Commission historian, and I want to introduce him to all of you, and he will proceed from here.
There you go.
Now that I've got the mic, I'm finished.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, one more thing. If you have not signed the museum guest book, please sign it before you depart. It's on the table.
I just opened those thinking it was going to help the people see more, but if it's better for your video purposes, go ahead and whatever you want to do. Stop it! Because I just now saw it. All right. So this is everybody that's here so far, so we can go ahead and start. Mr. Craig's here. Excellent. Okay. Well, can everybody hear me? That was your chance to joke and say, what? Like you said? Exactly. There you go. My name is William Porter. I'm with the Texas Historical Commission, and I'm the agency's military historian and also the agency's oral historian. And joining me today for this workshop is Laura Newcomer. She works for Ecological Communications Corporation. It's a private company that's contracted with the Texas Historical Commission to work on our statewide survey of all the military and homefront sites in Texas during World War II. I'll tell you how many there are in a few minutes, but I want to continue to make some introductions real quick. Joining me today is Amber Nunez in the back right there. She's with our County Historical Commission Outreach Program. She and Amy Hammond work with all 254 counties, including Oasis, around the state. And also here today in the back is Carlin Hammond. Carlin Hammond is with our museum services staff. She works with Laura Casey, and they work with museums around the state of Texas. And I just want to thank the Oasis County Historical Commission, Betty, John, great tour yesterday out on the water, and everyone else like Mr. Pratt that has contacted us ahead of time to let us know they are looking forward to having this workshop down here because we're looking forward to coming. So that said, let me go ahead and start off the workshop. Betty already said it for me, but all of these workshops that we're doing are funded by the Peace and Endowment for Summerlin Foundation. In fact, everything that I'm going to talk to you about Texas in World War II is funded by private donors and grants that we received in 2004. We've been doing these oral history training workshops around the state because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm the agency's military historian and the oral historian, but I'm the only one. And there was over 750,000 men and women in Texas that served during World War II in the military alone. Now you take that number, you times 2, around 1.5 million served in the homefront stories, then you add on the children of World War II, there's no way that I'm going to be able to make it around the state and talk to everyone and do an oral history with them. It's just not, so what we're doing these workshops is doing them across the state. As you can see, we spread them out geographically to allow people to have a chance to come here, see what we're working on, get the materials for free, and then go out into their own community, do an oral history, whether it be World War II, maybe it's your hometown community or your family's history, or it's a Korean War veteran's history or a Vietnam veteran's history, and then collect it for your local community. We also provide in a workbook, and I'll show you later on places where you can deposit those if that's something you want to do. But what we want to stress is that although we're talking today in a World War II context, the information that you'll receive can be applied to any sort of world history project. We always want to encourage you that if you do an oral history with someone, make sure that you keep it local. So that way when someone local wants to know about their community's history, boom, it's there at the local library or through the County Historical Commission, and it's easily acceptable. Now, with my super PowerPoint special effects, you can see that we're down here in Nueces County. And you see there's another star right next to it. I know that John and Mr. Pratt, I think he walked back out, joined us back in May when we did this workshop at Corpus Christi Pacific Betty. Was there anyone else that was there at that workshop? Well, you'll probably notice, for those of you that were at the Corpus Christi workshop, that I'm working today without one of our partners. We've been doing these workshops for the past year and a half with Baylor University's Institute for Oral History. You'll find a lot of their material in these workbooks. They worked with us last week in Houston. In order to be able to do 2 in August, I'm going solo today. So I'm going to fly with you guys by myself today, and you let me know if I crash and burn. All right, the Texas World War II Initiative. How does what we're doing today fit into what we're doing at the THC regarding the history of Texas and World War II? Well, on September 2nd, 2005, we launched this initiative at the state capitol. As you can see from these photos, there was a flyover of vintage aircraft, a lot of people. The materials that are in front of you that some of you have already opened, you'll see there is a brochure, Texas and World War II, and they're copying a special World War II medallion. That's our bi-monthly newsletter. We started giving these out to everyone. This was my first week on the job at the THC, so I figured that every program at the Texas Historical Commission starts off with a party like this. Little did I know, 4 years later, tomorrow, no, this is something special, and we've been doing it for nearly 4.5 years when you count the raising the funds for your birthday. So what is Texas World War II? Well, obviously the workshops that we're here today. Yes, War Time, Texas. This is a series of 21 markers that we've been putting up across the state. We've done 18 so far, and we have 3 left to go. There's 100 told stories. I actually did one here in Nueces County with, Anita Eisenhower, members of the County Historical Commission down in Corpus, to the American GI Corps. We've been placing them across the state, to petroleum in Texas during World War II, to consolidated royalty aircraft, B-24 plant, Fort Worth, to a Vita Cole Hobby and women in the Army Corps during World War II, prisoner of war camps, Army airfields, many different stories. We have 3 left to go. The Victory Grill, which was an African American USO in Austin, Camp San Augustine, which is going to be our last POW camp, and then Texas Home Front. In Johnson County, in Cleveland. The next thing is part of the overall initiative is statewide survey, and that's what the last hour of the workshop is all about today. We have identified several World War II related sites in Nueces County and the surrounding counties. We've identified them for all 193 counties engaged in World War II activities during the war. And we brought that with us here to show you what we know about, and then ask you if you know more information about it, or if you see anything missing from our list. Lastly, this is what we're really happy about, and at the end of the workshop, we'll go into detail. Regardless of where you are in the state, regardless of where you are in the country, regardless of where you are in the world, in 2 years, when this project's done, all the information from Texas and World War II that we put together is going to be available for free through the website. So you can go see the photos, you can go to the database and find out the resources, you can know the GPS points of the bombing targets for Midland Army Airfield, know the historical context in the Victory Grill or any other subject that you might want to know about. And we're really excited about that. It's got about 2 years to go. Like I said, I'm going to tell you in a minute how many sites there are. But Laura and I have done 2 trips so far since they joined us, and we've counted about 37 sites so far roughly. When I get to how many there really are, let's take a see why it's going to take us 2 years. Brief context about the war in Texas that someone here doing an oral history with could tell you about. Now, they can tell you that Texas during World War II was much different than it is today. The urbanization and the modernization of the state is brought on by all of these military installations that are put into place in the state during World War II, and their sister complex sites, such as war industry, highways and roads, infrastructure for cities. When they did the 2004 estimate, they thought there was approximately about 175 military installations in the state during World War II. And of that 175, they knew that there was approximately 70 prisoner war camps. How many of you knew that there were 70 prisoner war camps in the state of Texas during World War II, housing Germans and Italians and a few Japanese? Not a lot of people know. And that's one of the great things that Laura wrote up for us, and you'll see at the end of the web pages, is the teaching curriculum. Are any of you public school teachers who've been public school teachers? One, two? Okay. Well, TEKS, I don't know if you ever had to deal with TEKS. Yes, okay. Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. These tests that students take and these learning lessons that teachers use in the class, Laura's written up an example for elementary schools and high schools, depending on whether it's Texas history or it's world U.S. history. And the focus is World War II camps, because there's so many across the state that they fit within all different regions, Region 13, Region 14, etc. Now, told you 175 sites were estimated in 2004. Laura and Econ did academic research for us last year. I've been pulling things for a couple of years and said, here you go. She helped build it all into one database. And we've come up that there are over 193 counties in the state with a World War II site of some level, whether it be as large as the B-24 plant in Fort Worth, or it's the recruitment station and rationing board in the courthouse in Rialto County. Over 1,400 sites across the state, and we've done 37 so far. So you can see why it's going to take about 2 years to get through it. But when we're done, this is going to be the definitive source on Texas and World War II history. Will it have everything? No, because we're going to miss something, we understand that. But we're making it into a living document so that people can let us know, hey, you forgot, there was this in San Francisco County. Or hey, down here in Cameron County, there's another airfield that you missed. So we can continue to add it after it's done. But our goal is to make sure that we get all of those sites. So, again, back to oral histories and talking with people, what you're going to see. Well, as I mentioned, all these sites did come around on December 8, 1941. Shortly before World War II, the United States government realized that sooner or later we were going to have some sort of presence in World War II. And they started building sites. Camp Bowie in Brownwood is a great example of a World War II site being built before the Battle of Pearl Harbor and the United States entered World War II. But what you see after World War II is this driving force by the United States government to gear up for a two-front war. A war that in 1942 we're losing. So, in essence, we need to get as much material, as much men and women trained to fight this war as possible. So things are going up really quick. And people that were in Texas that made that possible were people like Sam Rayner, who's not only a congressman of his small little East Texas district, Northeast Texas district, he's also a four-time Speaker of the House. So these small collection of counties, when you look at large West Texas counties like Brewster, Presidio, and others, has over 20 major military installations in one. So you can see how quickly 1,400 sites spring up across the state. And they don't spring up by themselves. They don't just exist in this vacuum outside the city limits sign of College Station, or outside the city limits sign of Dallas, or outside of San Antonio, or within San Antonio that have nothing to do with it. The infrastructure that the city is laying to these sites is often based on the fact that communities in Texas are dealing with what communities across the United States have been dealing with. And this is what we try to convey to people that didn't either live through World War II or have a good understanding of what World War II is when they get ready for oral history with someone, is that everyone you're going to do oral history with, even the children in some aspects, lived through the Great Depression. So they know what it's like to go without. So you have these chambers of commerce talking to state senators, talking to U.S. congressmen, talking to Sam Rayner saying, we want this period of camp here because one, it's going to alleviate the man shortage of all of our men and women joining the military or getting jobs in bigger cities. And two, we know what the impact is going to be of having 4,000 Army Air Force in our community spending their money every year. So you see modernization and urbanization. You see the highway system that really takes foot in the 1950s with the National Highway. But you see it here. Guthrie, Is that a 155 Tom there, Jim Cole?
That looks like a long time to me.
Yeah, I thought it was. I just want to make sure you're awake. No, I'm kidding. Boom. We're talking about that artillery piece being towed by that lorry right there in East Texas. I love laser pointers. So as I mentioned, over 750,000 Texans. But not all of them served overseas, as we're going to talk about. There are all types of World War II oral history people talk about. Not everyone stormed the beach in Normandy or fought in a cruiser in the Pacific. You have men here on the coast, defending the coast in coastal artillery battles, or you have soldiers guarding POWs and POW camps. And all of these oral histories are very important. Here's a great example that we like to use. This gentleman is L.D. Cox. He's from Texas, joined the Navy here in World War II, and he served on the USS Indianapolis. How many of you have heard the story or the fate of the USS Indianapolis? 3, 4? Okay, for those of you that don't know, the USS Indianapolis was a heavy cruiser that served in the Pacific. Long story short, after the battle off Iwo Jima and Okinawa, it comes back to the United States with war damage, especially for the Battle of Okinawa. And it gets refit in San Francisco. While in San Francisco, it picks up a special cargo that's welded to the deck, a very large crate. And they make the best possible speed across the Pacific. Well, the rumor, the scuttlebutt he said on there was that it was a giant crate of Harvard's favorite toilet paper. But what it really was the first atomic weapon used against Japan. They delivered it into the Pacific and then started moving north to join the rest of the invasion fleet, preparing for the eventual land invasion of Japan. Well, on its way up, and then again, secret mission, they were still running under radio secrecy. They were torpedoed by a Japanese submarine and it sank in less than 9 minutes. Now, the crew over 300 are surviving in the water 5 days and no one knows where they are. They were also hit by sharks while they were in the water. So they went through a very terrible time out there. And he's done discovery